I'm waiting for the poly brush to cure on the fuselage before I put the poly spray on it. I've been working on that fuel tank, and of course I got it all stripped down and everything down the holes to replace some things. One of the things that needs to be replaced is that bushing that the quick drain threads into. The aluminum one was all corroded out. I got a piece of hex stock, I think it's 3/4 inch hex stock brass, and I cut off a chunk of it. I'm going to make a new bushing for that, and I've got it chucked up here in the lathe now. Anyway, I didn't make a very square cut on that, but I'm trying to face this off here now to get a face on there, and then I'll see if I can find a center drill and center drill that so I can support it with a center and machine this out. Or I've got this tool bit. This is what I made for doing the plastic when I made the new rollers for the bead roller, and it's just got a fingernail shape on it, just a curve on it. Probably not exactly right for brass, but the only other ones I've got are cut for cutting steel, so they've got too much relief angle on them. So anyway, I've got this set up in here, just making easy cuts on it. There's way too much overhang on here for this lathe. I've got it, the saw cut that came from the company where I ordered the bar stock from. It's got a face on it. I got it against this chuck and clamped in there, but there's way more overhang than it should have on that, so I've got to take real easy cuts on there. I've already had it flop out of there 3 or 4 times, so I've got my speed reduced way down, and I just take a little cut at a time on that until I get it faced off. There we go. I got that faced off. I put the big chuck in. I've got a great big chuck on a backing plate, and I don't like using that because it's so heavy and sticks out so far. But I put it in because it's got longer jaws, and it worked, but just barely. I couldn't get it to line up straight in there because it exceeded the limit on the jaws. I mean, I had it just right out on the tip there, and I couldn't get it squared up. Well, anyway, I pretty much got it faced off, and then I put it back in this little chuck and finished it off. And I changed my bit. That one wasn't working. It was just taking too much of a bite. So I've got a bit here that I'd sharpened up and used for aluminum. I cleaned it up and stuck it in there, centered it, and used it. It worked better. So now I've got my drill chuck in there and a center drill. I want to go ahead and drill a hole for a center on there, and then that'll support that a lot better when I go to start turning that down. Okay, that should do it. Gives me a center hole in there to run a center in. I got it set up now on the center, on a live center, and this thing's cutting a whole lot better like that. Leave a small section of this hex so a wrench can fit on it to hold it from turning in the fiberglass when I want to put in the quick drain or take it out to clean it, something like that. I'm going to turn this down mostly round, and then I'm going to make a groove in here for the fiberglass to pack into, so it makes a good bond. So it's got something for, and there'll be a ridge right here and a groove here that can fill up with fiberglass. I got my shape in here. This will be the nut for the outside. There's a groove in here to receive the fiberglass resin, kind of stepped, and then I took the parting tool and run in there and parted off. I didn't go all the way through, so we got to drill that out. This is going to be tapped for a 1/2 inch pipe thread here, so I have to drill that out. I got my bushing made. I would still need to drill it out and tap it for the 1/2 inch pipe thread, but it's pretty much made, and I was pretty happy with the way it turned out. I thought it looked pretty good. I went up and tried it on the fuel tank, and it's just not quite deep enough. This end here is good, and it all fit up, but it's just not quite enough room in there to build up any fiberglass on the inside of that fuel tank to hold that in, to give it some good rigidity, or to hold it in there real good. I'm going to go ahead and make another one. I've got my piece of brass chucked back up in here in the lathe. I faced off the end of it here where the little tit was on there from parting that off, and then I couldn't get it to run straight, so I flipped it end for end and faced off the other end, and now I've got it a little bit straighter. But it doesn't make too much difference if it's true. It's not a precision tool or anything. Well, anyway, I'll go ahead and trim that down. I'm going to take off a little bit more here and make it round, and then cut some grooves in it for the fiberglass to bite into. Maybe put a couple ridges on it. I put a good relief in it, a good groove in it, like I did here behind the face of it, behind the hex head, and put a good groove in there, and then maybe a ridge sticking up out, and then do that a couple of times on there to give it plenty of purchase so it holds good in that fiberglass. So anyway, here we go, back at it again. I've got this new piece just about done. I've got grooves cut in here for the fiberglass to fit into. I just cut those in with a cutoff tool. So I've got one groove here close to the head, and I'll have a piece of fiberglass go in there and put right up against that fuel tank. And then another one on the inside here. This flange will fit in the middle there where the fiberglass pieces come together, and then we'll put some more fiberglass here on this side, and then there'll be a place to build it up in there in these grooves, and a final groove here. So I'm starting to cut off the thing now with cutoff tool, but I have got to extend it out a little bit farther because I couldn't have it out far enough to cut it off. I don't have enough room with my tool post and everything to clear the work there. I'm still holding that with the center. There's too much overhang on this. It might not be so bad now, but there's so much overhang on that piece that I can't really cut it off without flipping it out of that chuck. So I'll run it in here, get it most of the way in with it held with the center, and then once I get close to having it cut off, I'll back the center off a little bit. Well, this is my new piece. I got a couple of little shims in there I have to cut out from the cutoff tool going in there, but not too bad. So that's the new piece, and this is the original piece that I made. So this sticks out into the fuel tank on the inside quite a bit more, so it'll give a lot more purchase for the fiberglass resin and the fiberglass to hold it in there real nice. I've drilled that out to a 1/2 inch, which is about as big as I can go with a drill on this little lathe. I've only got a 1/4 inch chuck here. Oh, I've got some reduced shank drill bits for 1/4 inch, but anyway, I've got it drilled through with 1/2 inch. It's supposed to be, I think, 25-30 seconds is what I read off the chart. I'll have to go check on that again. But I'm going to turn this over and face off the other side, and then we'll go see about drilling this out on the drill press to get it up and tapping it. Okay, so this is a new bushing. I dished it out in here, chamfering out that hole a little bit. You know, water will flow in there easier. I might add some more of that once I get this drilled and tapped. Said I have to take this now and figure out how to tap that for 1/2 inch pipe thread. Well, so far my little experiment with making a bushing for that fuel drain on the auxiliary fuel tank on the airplane haven't exactly turned out the way I would have liked. My first attempt here, I liked it a lot. That was kind of my first attempt at machining brass and turning it, and it's certainly not perfect, but it would have worked fine. But it's just not long enough, protrude into the tank far enough to get a good bed of fiberglass around it to make sure it's anchored in there good. So that was my first attempt. Well, then I made another one, and that one was plenty long enough, and it would have worked out real well, real good. I had a slot here to put fiberglass in from the outside, and then this groove in here to hold it in and stuff, and then a nice big slot in here to put more fiberglass in there and onto the inside, and then the last one to kind of fill up here with a little bit of filler material to kind of fair that in. But then I was kind of worried about that after I got to looking at it. Maybe I got these grooves in here too deep, because that hole has to be drilled out to size, and it's a 1/2 inch pipe fitting that goes in there. Well, sure enough, once I drilled it out and put the tap in there, you can see where the tap is cutting into the grooves there on that. and so that one didn't work as well as advertised. So I did another one, and this one's pretty close to the same as that second one that I did. It's got the same groove in there, and then I made a triple groove out here on this one, and then a single groove, a narrower groove here, but it serves the same purpose. And that one I didn't go near as deep with the grooves. It would have worked out real well. I got it all drilled out and everything, but then when I run the tap in there, I run the tap in crooked. So I could use that one, but I don't want to, so I'm going to go ahead and make another one. I mean, I'm doing it now. I'm getting this thing down and figured out, so might as well do it right. Well, I've got it all, another chunk of brass chucked up there and ready to try it again. Fourth time's the charm. I got that one all tapped and all machined up. Looks really good. It's going to work nice. That quick drain fits in there just perfect. I'm going to clean up the chamfer on this. It got boogered up a little bit drilling that hole out. So anyway, I'm going to clean up that chamfer a little bit there on that, on the entry. And then this is the end that the fluid flows out of. It goes in the tank, and this is the quick drain, opens up like that. So I'm going to open this up, taper that down in there, so any contaminants that happen to be in there will have a nice free shot to get in there to the opening of that quick drain. I'll bore that out a little bit at an angle. Okay, here's the part all finished. Got the quick drain in there, and I opened up this down in there so that that's got plenty of room around that opening for that quick drain. That's with it open like that. You can see the holes down in there pretty good. I like that a lot. Oh, that's it. Now to fiberglass it in the tank.